Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our annual briefing. My name is Marina Roberts. Many of you all know me already, but this time I'm joining you as the organization's development director. I would like to begin by sharing our deep thanks to you all for taking the time to hear about our member-led work and for lending your support to immigrant workers in Texas. Next slide, please. It goes without saying that in these times, standing with this community is itself a bold act in defiance of democracy's greatest enemies. For that, we are grateful to you and glad to be with you in this movement. Before we dive in, I have some quick housekeeping. Please be sure to keep your microphone muted throughout the presentation. We invite you to use the chat to introduce yourself so we can get to know each other and make connections. We will go through our panel conversation first, and we have left time at the end for any questions. Please feel free to also drop questions in the chat as we go, and one of our team members will keep track to highlight during the Q&A at the end. Along with my colleagues, I'm excited to share the transformative work that our staff and members have been leading and what we're looking forward to in the coming year. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our panelists to introduce themselves, starting with Lisette. Next slide, please.
Buenos días, Lisette, Executive Director. Thank you all so much for joining, and se lo voy a pasar a LPB.
Good morning. My name is Laura Perez Boston. I'm the organizing director. And since we have two Lauras on the team, I go by LPB. So I'll pass it to Ashley.
And next slide, please.
Hello, my name is Ashley Juarez, and I'm a staff attorney in our Employment Legal Services Department. I'll pass it to Chidi.
Hi, good morning. My name is Chidi Umez Rowley, and I'm the Better Builder Director. I'll pass it to David.
Hello and good morning. I'm David Chinkanchin. I'm the Policy Director here at Workers Defense, and I'll pass it to Laura Becerra.
Good morning. My name is Laura Becerra, and I am the Movement and Politics Director, and I'll pass it to Christine.
Good morning. My name is Christine Bolaños, and I'm the Communications Director. I'll pass it back to Marina.
Thanks so much, y'all. I want to emphasize that the folks you'll be hearing from today represent a small number of the staff who support and facilitate our member-led work. We have some of the team on the call with us today, and while not everyone is presenting on this panel, every single staff member at Workers Defense plays a vital role in making this organization's outsized impact in the Texas ecosystem what it is. Now, to get us started, I'd like to hand it off to Lisette to ground us in the current context of the work. Next slide, please.
Yes, Marina. And so I want to start a little bit by talking about our members. So Workers Defense, as many of you know, organizes a base of immigrant workers here in Texas who work in essential jobs for essentially poverty wages and have been long used as scapegoats by both political parties. Even with the scenario planning that we did leading up to 2025, no amount of planning could have prepared us for what our community is facing today. Right now, 1 out of every 4 ICE arrests that's happening in Texas. We have already responded to 3 worksite raids in our areas. We have seen the number of employers who threaten to call ICE on workers in retaliation for them asserting their rights skyrocket over the last year. In areas where we previously thought we might be able to prevent or slow down ICE operations, we have instead seen those elected officials proudly announce their collaboration with immigration. And Texas continues to be an anti-worker state that does not believe that worker protections are needed. There's no words to describe the heartbreak of witnessing our members struggle to survive this brutal reality in which every time they leave their homes, they might be the last time that they see their kids. Our members are fearful of going anywhere. They're fearful of going to get groceries, to go to the lavanderia, even go to church. Some are only going to work and back because there's no option. If they don't go to work, they will not be able to pay their bills. And the kids are learning to keep quiet in the home with closed blinds, to become fearful anytime there's a knock on the door. And despite these challenges, our members are remaining resilient. They are committed to building power. They are organizing to create the change we all need here in Texas. Our members are continuing to show up. They are not giving up on the fight. And because of them, we have overcome huge odds and have accomplished amazing things, which we are excited to share with you today. I do want to share a little bit first that in order for us to preserve our ability to continue this work, we have had to make some pivots and adjustments to this new reality that we're facing. We have had to shift internal operations to protect members and staff. We've also had to build a deportation defense plan for our members. And like I said earlier, we've already responded to several worksite raids in our areas. And we've also made the strategic decision to take on a bigger role as national partners with the Fair Immigration Reform Movement in order for us to share the insights from our members, bring their stories to light, and shape the national strategy around immigration. Workers' Defense is playing a leading role in shaping strategy, and we are doing the work. We're organizing around the demand to abolish ICE and not forgetting about our goal for citizenship for all. We're fighting against police and ICE collaboration, and we're winning on our demands for workers' rights during the FIFA World Cup games. And we've also really excitedly have expanded the Better Builder program into Harris County and blocked irregular surveillance in Austin. So our folks are not giving up, and I hope that you also don't give up on us and continue to partner with us as we continue this fight for democracy and our rights and immigrant rights here in Texas. But in order for us to go more into the details, I'm going to now pass it again to LPB so she could talk a little bit more about our organizing work.
And
Thanks,
next slide,
Lisa.
please.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that strong grounding, Lisa. I just want to echo everything that you shared because what makes it into the news is just the tip of the iceberg. For our members, the reality of how profoundly this is impacting the psyche of their families, their kids, it's hard to measure. Immigrant children are facing bullying at school, and their parents are going to work and having their wages stolen at even more appalling rates because abusive bosses feel that they can get away with it in this culture of impunity and in this political climate. And as bad as things seem, what our members report to us is somehow even worse. And of course, we should just call it what it is. This is an effort to unravel our democracy that we're seeing in action into more of a authoritarian form of government. The problem that we're facing is that we currently don't have enough power to stop this erosion of our rights. So we need a shared strategy to build power all across the country in every neighborhood, workplace, and community, but especially with those that are most targeted by this effort. And just to share with you, one reflection I've had over the past year is just how the equation of organizing around campaigns feels broken. Like the way I was taught, and much of the work has been bringing those directly affected by an issue to confront those in power. And now people are, unable to leave their homes because of the fear of being abducted by federal agents and can't easily access the public spaces where those confrontations with power would take place. We can't promise to our members that, there will be safety in the Texas legislature or city hall. So we've had to rethink different aspects of our work, from having staff and volunteers give member testimonies, or also shifting meetings to members' homes instead of our offices. And mostly, I feel immensely proud of the creativity that our members and organizers have brought to this problem. We're doing Know Your Rights trainings in places like Zumba classes, outreach at pulgas, flea markets. We're really investing in giving our members the tools so they can take the organizing into their own neighborhoods and job sites. And I want to acknowledge, though, that while our organizing response has involved a lot of novel tactics, the problem that we're responding to is not new. ICE brutality is police brutality. Immigrants and communities of color have been targeted, attacked, and abducted since the founding of this country. And part of what we strive to do with our work is tap into that historical foundation of resistance with our members to learn and deepen our analysis of how those systems show up in other ways. We have many models of engaging our base in this kind of popular education, from our monthly juntas, membership meetings, our reuniones comunitarias, which are more in the community, and our annual leadership class. So I want to share a little bit about the leadership class. Next slide, please. Thanks. So each year we make a deep investment into the skills and confidence of our members through our long-standing leadership class. In 2025, we also held our first advanced leadership class, which is for experienced members who are graduates of the 1.0 course, and it provides a deeper training on building and growing participants' own bases as leaders. We feel this is an evolution of the program that couldn't have come at a more needed time. Right now, the movement needs a vanguard of trained organizers with the lived experience of our members, folks whose interest in defeating ICE is direct, material, and includes a personal interest. With our leadership classes, we're building a deeper bench of movement veterans with the organizing skills to train leaders beyond the capacity and reach of our staff, a powerful strategy that undermines the efficacy of mass deportations agendas and that are designed to isolate community members from collective power. I believe that programs like this are a critical piece of the national strategy I alluded to earlier, and nowhere is it needed as much as in Texas. With that, I'd like to pass it to my colleague Ashley to share a little more about Workers' Defense and how we're operationalizing the immigrant worker agenda in the pursuit of power and justice. And next slide.
Thanks, LPB. I want to underscore what LPB has shared because what our members are experiencing is very dire, but their work is very urgent. We work with a group of people who are central to the fight to save this country, in a state where we must win to truly stop the dismantling of our democracy. In this country, we have a culture of bosses being the ultimate dictators over their companies and employees. And this is no small part of our lives, given the fact that most of us spend more waking hours at work than we do with our own families. Given that reality, taking on a small-time contractor in a worker justice campaign is also defying a culture that is permissive of worker abuse. Participating in a campaign is a bold act, and it builds the kind of organizers who more intuitively recognize the need to proactively assert and defend their rights. In and of itself, this may not always translate to changes in the federal government, but I want to draw attention to the connection between this country's long-standing lack of democracy in the workplace and the current political moment we are living in, where we feel our democracy slipping through our fingers and so many people are not fighting back. To go a little deeper, I want to share an example with you of the kind of worker justice cases we take on here at Workers' Defense. Next slide, please. In 2023, we launched a campaign against the California-based manufacturing company U.S. Merchants at a Houston warehouse after one of our members reported a litany of abuses and unsafe working conditions. In response to these grave conditions, we supported several workers in submitting a complaint to OSHA, primarily regarding extreme heat and worker experiences with heat-related injuries and illnesses. I am proud to share with you that after years of organizing, we learned U.S. Merchants has received a citation and a $16,000 penalty regarding this case. This result reflects the tangible gains organizing a workplace, but this case has broader implications too. In our experience, it is very uncommon for OSHA to investigate heat-related issues, even as threats to worker safety due to heat illness become more severe with climate change. The fact that a federal agency like OSHA not only investigated these claims, but enacted real consequences is remarkable, especially given the other shifts we saw at the federal level last year. This is the kind of worker justice campaign we look for at Workers' Defense, because it offers workers an opportunity to gain organizing experience and its impact reaches beyond the job site. I want to take a moment to mention that throughout 2025, we saw a big decrease in the effectiveness of filing formal labor complaints with federal agencies. In large part due to staffing cuts, every grievance we supported workers in filing last year has not been resolved. While we are still filing these complaints, this new reality has pushed us to think creatively, and we found great success with small-scale direct actions as a means to recover wages and fight employer abuses. Even a handful of workers picketing in an employer's neighborhood can be sufficient pressure to move a bad boss to do the right thing. And so for us, these campaigns are about the kind of base building it takes to set the stage for a future where we do have the power to transform the realities working people face. Bit by bit, we're showing working class people how organizing gets the goods, that regular people can actually fight back and win. Next slide, please. There's one last thing I want to touch on before we move on. Immigration rightly became the chief concern of our members last year. our organization made a number of defensive pivots to meet our community's needs as they contend with the viciousness of ICE activity and mass raids. Workers Defense responded to members seeking guidance for the worst-case scenario by offering family preparedness workshops, supporting folks with basic preparedness in the event of a family member's deportation. These workshops represent some of the heaviest work we see our members through as they contemplate the unthinkable happening to their families. We're also thinking more creatively than ever before, specifically about how we get accurate information about immigrant rights into the hands of people who need it most, from Know Your Rights trainings to distributing red cards with rights information. You'll hear more later about the policy work we're leading to weaken the tools ICE has at their disposal and to block institutional collaboration with ICE. With that, I'd like to pass it off to Chidi to tell us about some major wins our members netted last year. Next slide, please.
I'm really excited to introduce myself to everyone and to share two remarkable achievements from 2025. For background, the program my team runs is called the Better Builder Program. This is a one-of-a-kind worker labor standards that to improve conditions in the Texas construction industry by advocating.
Chidi, I'm not sure if you're able to hear me, but the audio is cutting out just a little bit. I'm not sure if
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try. So the Better Builder program improves conditions in the Texas industry by advocating for workplace standards, including living wages, OSHA safety training, workers' compensation coverage, local hiring goals, and critical independent third-party monitoring. Community education and policy change are both major components of Better Builder. We saw last year, as we saw last year in Harris County, where we secured two significant victories. Next slide, please. First, we won a living wage policy impacting county contractors and employees. This massive victory in an anti-union stronghold like Texas represents the power of community organizing, coalition building, and worker leadership. Next slide, please. Second, we passed a worksite safety policy, and together with the living wage policy, this represents a comprehensive Better Builder program equivalent outside of Central Texas, a historic first for our organization. This tag team victory is one of the most significant from the last year, specifically because it shows what sustained organizing, coalition building, worker stories, and deep community relationships can produce, even in a state notorious for its anti-worker political landscape. These wins are a testament to our members. For now, we are celebrating these wins while talking about the future of Better Builder. We have a lot of work to do to guide the future of this program, from working to get a coordinated monitoring process in Harris County, to advancing policies in Dallas, and thinking through independent revenue generation ideas to make the program financially sustainable for the long term. In doing this, we are excited to collaborate with our members, our community allies, and others to gain more wins for workers in Texas. With that, I'd like to pass it to David to talk more about our policy work. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Chidi. In a year like 2025, especially, it was incredible to be part of such meaningful work in Harris County. And those wins are a huge testament to the power of organizing and the effectiveness of Workers Defense's commitment to member leadership. Next slide, please. In my role leading the policy team, I have the at times challenging privilege of translating our members' priorities into policy spaces that are often outright hostile to the communities we serve. Last year, the Texas legislature was in session. Historically, this convening of state lawmakers has been an arena of injustice, with lawmakers winding up various harms to be meted out to immigrant workers and families. And winning in this space often means defending our community from the worst of the attacks. And the 2025 session was in keeping with this tradition. Next slide, please. During the session, we fought to defend immigrant families and advance worker protections, and to block a mountain of bad proposals. These range from preemption bills to bills blocking undocumented kids from attending Texas public schools. Next slide, please. In a special session called by Governor Abbott, we also had to contend with mid-decade redistricting that sought to racially gerrymander our state to unprecedented levels. In addition to opposing this measure and drawing national attention to these unjust and undemocratic maps, Workers Defense organized teach-ins to inform out-of-state partners and educate our membership on how redistricting is connected to their priorities, like immigration. But defending against this onslaught of attacks wasn't our only business at the Capitol this year. For the first time, Workers Defense's heat safety bill received a hearing. While the bill was not passed into law this session, this exciting first was a needed reminder that navigating state politics to advance good policy is possible. Each year, our organization and members build upon the knowledge we gain through experience, and seeing this bill to the hearing stage was a powerful testament to the tenacity of our members and a seed for us to grow in future sessions. Next slide, please. Luckily, the fight for heat safety didn't end at the legislature. Last summer, Workers Defense collaboratively organized Heat Week, coinciding with the National OSHA Heat Safety public hearing regarding the proposed federal heat safety standard. For Heat Week, organizations from across the country spotlighted the need for worker protections from heat stress as another summer of extreme heat began. We spotlighted several active state and local campaigns, building momentum, modeling how to protect workers from heat, and demonstrating viable solutions for workers across the country. Next slide, please. Another frontier of our fight for heat safety is the 2026 FIFA World Cup. In coalition with labor and community partners through the Dignity 2026 campaign, we help move FIFA to ensure strong worker protections for jobs created by the event, for which Houston and Dallas are both host cities. Where we've already had success ensuring some worker protections for jobs created by the event, we are shifting now into leading conversations between labor justice and immigrant rights organizations to ensure protection against ICE and immigration enforcement activity for those attending and working on the games to ensure everyone that participates is safe. These games offer a significant opportunity for visibility in the fight for labor rights and immigrant justice, as the World Cup is the single most watched sporting event on Earth. Next slide, please. Next, I want to share about some rule changes happening with the DMV in our state. In November of last year, the DMV quietly implemented a new rule requiring Texans to show certain documents as proof of legal status to register their vehicle. Because our members need their vehicles to live and work in Texas, this is a huge priority for us. For our members, this deeply alarming rule change reflects the very different reality we live in red and southern states. We've all seen the horror unfolding in states like Minnesota, where ICE has killed multiple US citizens. But here in Texas, we're facing an attack on immigrants that is every bit as militarized, in addition to our state government using every tool at their disposal to make life impossible for our community. It's a kind of Jim Crow policymaking approach that seeks to undermine the things working people need to live, and the perpetual urgency around defensive fights like these is a huge part of what makes winning positive, proactive policies such a challenge in this state. Next slide, please. And next, I want to talk about mass surveillance, which has quietly exploded in recent years. Right now, our data is being harvested by phones, doorbell cameras, and electric cars, and a dearth of regulations leave tech companies free to broker that data, all without obtaining the informed consent of the public. We're starting to see the alarming impacts of this surveillance with grave implications for privacy, for immigrants, and for democracy itself. One example of this tech is automated license plate readers, otherwise known as ALPRs, which are an essential part of the tech to deportation pipeline, feeding data to ICE to target immigrants. We have had a number of major victories blocking the expansion or adoption of this tech throughout Central Texas. And the goal in our work in mass surveillance, excuse me, the goal in our work against mass surveillance is to slow down the gears of the mass deportation machine, something we all have a stake in defeating precisely because of how it can be weaponized against any one of us. AOPR systems are the equivalent of having a police officer tell you day and night in their cruiser without a warrant, just made less alarming by the absence of a physical car. To be permissive of such mass-scale data collection based on its potential to solve crimes is to essentially wave away the necessity of hard-fought due process protections and the limitations on the power of law enforcement that are there to protect all of us from abuse. These surveillance technologies are already being weaponized against protesters, and they have predictably exacerbated racial profiling. The time to intervene is now, before this mass-scale circumvention of our civil liberties becomes more entrenched. And next slide, please. So to wrap up, I want to talk about some of last year's efforts combating another arm of the deportation machine, which is local police collaboration with ICE. Starting this year, Texas counties are forced to enter into 287G agreements with ICE. However, exactly how SB 8 will be applied remains somewhat ambiguous. Workers' Defense has seized on this as an opportunity to resist. Last fall, we blocked the passage of a 287G policy in Dallas, moving City Council to indefinitely postpone a proposal that would have empowered local police to act as immigration agents, targeting and terrorizing immigrant communities. Battling ICE collaboration in our cities continues to be one of our members' most pressing priorities. We continue to work in coalition with allies across the state, pushing elected officials to refuse complicity as we support our immigrant membership with other safety measures. One big picture takeaway I've taken from all of this work this year is that the way we think about stakeholder engagement at the local level especially needs to change. During many of this year's fights, we talked to a ton of government agencies, consultants, and interest groups who were eager to check the box of having spoken to the community, but were really disinterested in implementing any of that community's wishes. What we're after is meaningful, ongoing engagement, working hand in hand to create alignment and map out implementation. These are the kinds of relationships we're striving to build at Workers' Defense, and I feel we learn a lot about why that's so important this year. And so on that note, I'd like to pass it to Laura Becerra to talk about what it takes to shift the balance of power in Texas. And next slide, please.
Good afternoon or good morning for some of us, and thank you, David. In the light of last year, one thing we have realized is the importance of solidarity and building stronger coalitions. In my view, there's no way to win in states like Texas without unified movement. And next slide, please. Texas for All is our state's alignment table for power building organizations, and Workers' Defense is a founder member in this coalition. Last year, we contributed to the development of a shared long-term 10-year agenda for this table, helping us align a strategy with moving and goals and durable power building efforts across the state. This agenda is an essential piece of the infrastructure for us to be able to coordinate our efforts and align our messaging. And also to think about what does it take to win in our communities and move forward for a strategy together. Next slide. In Houston, Workers' Defense also carried out a canvassing program, and we focus on learning directly from Latina voters about their views on immigration and economy. There were real conversations at people's doors, center of what matters the most in their day-to-day lives. We will be releasing a full report later on this year, but one thing we already are seeing in the many voters we have talked to is that the views on ICE as a direct threat to public safety. And in many cases, that concerns is outweighing even economic issues. Next slide. Given this heightened fear among Latina voters, we have been deeply alarmed by officials who have spoken out about deploying ICE agents to polling locations in this year's election. We're gravely concerned about the implications for voter participation should ICE be presented at the polls. And we're working closely with partners to build strategies to block that from happening, or at least reducing the harm if ICE's presence becomes a reality. To close, I want to name the reality of this work. There isn't a clear playbook for engaging a membership like ours. Our approach has to stay rooted in community, both to reach people who are increasingly cautious and to rebuild trust that's been broken. Most of the time, it takes more than a single conversation to activate somebody to be part of this movement. Sometimes it takes a variety of tactics and it doesn't always translate well into neat deliverables. Other times, a door knock is all it takes. But we have to have the resources to be able to be there. To that end, I do want to express our gratitude to the supporters here who have recognized both the importance and the challenges of this work. We will never have the space to find the right strategies and build to this point without your confidence and support. With that, I'll pass it out to Christine, and she'll be sharing about how we're building power and responding to these challenges through our community work. Next slide.
Thanks so much, Laura. The problems our members are facing are this country's problems. And I don't see any way through these woods without a critical mass of us embracing and centering the humanity of immigrants. The Workers' Defense's Comms Department strives to advance a narrative that combats the othering of the immigrant community. As we uplift their stories in innovative ways through storytelling, social media, and traditional journalism, we're always thinking about the ways anti-immigrant sentiment has been weaponized to lead us to this present moment. Beating those who would replace our democracy with authoritarianism is in very large part a fight to reclaim the narrative around the immigrant story in America. And I'm proud of our team's efforts equipping our members to lead that work. One thing we identified last year is the real strength of our organization's popular education program. We wanted to complement the existing curriculum through member meetings and leadership class by building our members' skills in the communication space, which we have done in two key ways. Next slide, please. The Latina community is a huge target for various kinds of propaganda and disinformation. From social media to AI-generated fake news, our members are bombarded with false stories about the shifting immigration landscape, ICE presence in their neighborhoods, and more. While Workers' Defense is able to leverage our role as a trusted messenger to correct much of this disinformation among our readers, we started to think systemically about the spread of disinformation. Out of these conversations, we created our new media literacy classes. This first of its kind curriculum was so well received upon launching it that we have developed an array of complementary material to continue to engage our membership. These workshops go beyond presentations to engage members in mock exercises, like responding to a tia who shares disinformation over dinner without damaging the relationship. Right now, our goal is to have a statewide virtual media literacy workshop every quarter, which positions us well to refresh this skill for our members as we head into elections this year. We know this timing is critical, as year after year, we hear about false narratives around the election, discouraging our people from voting with confidence. The success we've seen, as evidenced by the deep levels of member engagement with this material, suggests there is a real appetite for this kind of training among our community, and we aim to continue meeting that need. Next slide, please. Second, I want to talk about how we're making deep investments in our members' communications skill sets through our Speakers Bureau. For a couple of years now, Workers' Defense has been training member leaders to be spokespeople, whether at a rally, to a journalist, or in a social media video. Earlier, LPB spoke about building a deeper bench and equipping our members to use their voices and stories to contribute to a narrative is part of that effort. Ultimately, both the Speakers Bureau and the media literacy classes are examples of how Workers' Defense is spreading tools and resources to combat systemic weapons used to disconnect us from democracy. I want to share about one more thing comms is leading, which is our org's implementation of race-class narrative into our comms strategy at all levels of the organization. Next slide, please. This matters because right now, the movement for immigrant and worker justice doesn't have unified language, and our opposition is winning in part because they do. By imparting shared frameworks for speaking about race and class issues, and by teaching our community how to navigate disinformation, seeking to undermine our pursuit of justice, we're helping to create the conditions necessary for us to literally change the conversation. The more we educate and inform, the more people like our members go into churches, PTA meetings, and job sites and converse this way. And the more likely it becomes that others adopt these frameworks and narratives. There's nothing more powerful than being educated, knowledgeable, and fighting back. And that's exactly what we're building in our base at Workers Defense. That's all for me. I'll pass it back to Marina.
Next slide, please. Thanks, Emil, Christine. We're wrapping up this section of the agenda, but before we move into Q&A, I wanted to talk briefly about my perspective on the fundraising side. I would be remiss if I didn't emphasize to the folks in this room how this escalation of the political climate has been so markedly successful in spreading fear throughout the community, fear that hinders our work and imparts vicarious trauma onto our staff and translates into very real risks for our organization and team. I want to be clear that the leadership of this organization has done everything possible to protect Workers Defense from external attacks as well as physical safety threats, and we make deep investments into the psychological wellness of our team. But I also want to be clear that the movement organizations effectively building power alongside a base need you. There are so many staggering limitations on what folks in the movement can do right now, in part because the organizers on the front lines of this fight are already carrying so much. If you want organizations like ours to continue doing this work, we need your support to sustain it. Funders have the unique ability to access funder-only spaces and guide conversations about what our priorities should be, and we rely on you to uplift the critical importance of organizing work to audiences that often have no context for what that means or how it relates to defending democracy. Tag us in to help explain that, and reach out to me for insight from our team when it could be persuasive to other funders. It has broken my heart to hear about funders outside of this space who are stepping back right now because the resources they preserve are needed now. Resources will go much further in protecting democracy now than they will in a future with emboldened targeting of marginalized communities, greater disregard for law and precedent, shredded institutions, and fewer civil liberties and protections. This is a moment in history where we have to step out of the defensive crouch we've been holding because we are being called to do more. Our descendants are looking back at us from either a worse place or a better one. It's up to us to decide which version of the world we're leaving them. I know the remarkable partners in this space understand that, and I hope we've offered some fuel for the conversations you'll have out there, especially in regard to Texas and the South. Next slide, please. The note I want to end on is this. Our members at Workers Defense are magic makers. They take the very worst this country has to offer, has always offered, and turn it into power. They turn it into the life-saving ability to rest. They make it into wages that can sustain a family. They turn it into consequences for bosses who demean the dignity of workers because they are immigrants. They are shifting the balance of power in Texas and therefore the country. And I think their victories are a mountain of testimony to the value of this organizing. I want to thank you all deeply, truly, for recognizing that value and the benefit it holds for us all. You've made something incredibly rare and special possible in Texas.